Hello. How are we doing today? Today's Wednesday. I don't even know what day of the week it is, or excuse me, month. But we're here anyway, so let's just get right into it. I have been taking a wee bit of a break past few days just because of some, I don't know. You know when you're going to push yourself too hard, and so I feel that if I continue, I might start to push myself a little too hard. And I shan't do that, because I've gone down that road before and it's not been fun. Though I do have some very interesting things in development for the book. Backstories of certain characters, certain plots. Remember that little story, that little short story I read, that dream sequence? I think I have an idea of how to work that giant in the story that might connect to some older things, pardon me, some older lore things that we have already worked on, you know, when it comes to giants. I forgot that they existed in the world already, and so I'm starting to piece stuff together. It's so weird how everything falls into place, man. I'll just say that. It's like we were always deliberating what we could do with these giants, and we had some idea. We thought, like, okay, maybe these giants are these guardians. Maybe they protect certain sacred sites made by Oapek himself. But we were always like, but like, why? You know what I mean? So we never really determined that. But it was understood that these sites may have something to do with portals. And that dream sequence, if you remember, the giant was within this room, this dream room inside of his mind. And he was, I guess you could say, like the gatekeeper to the portal in some sense. So I'm like, man, it's like they could be physical but also a mental construct. And then I'm trying to think, like, well, if they're like in the physical world and guardians, and they're kind of described as like not very intelligent, kind of, but sentient beings, no more intelligent than a dog at times, or just like a Neanderthal, if we would understand what we'd imagine Neanderthal as. But in the dream, he seemed more cognizant on a mental level. So maybe there's some aspect of transcendence. Maybe they live in multiple realms at once. Because I found some old lore where I said, like, okay, they might be very old ancient beings, and they might look down on mankind, like not just physically but mentally as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of open room to kind of move stuff around. So I've ended the book 2 on, there's these strange, I call them right now the Stone. I haven't given them their proper name yet. But they're like these warriors that are trapped in the stone of the mountain, awaiting to be woken up again. And I just happened to stumble upon the story of, I don't remember who it was, but it was this, I think it's a Welsh story, and there was this magician who came to town and said, can you help me find this place, and if you do, I'll give you the treasure once we get there. And the guy's like, sure, whatever. And when they go to this place, there are sleeping warriors, and they have to be quiet not to ring a giant bell, because when they accidentally did, one of them woke up. He says, is it time yet? Or something along those lines, like, is it time to awaken? And no, it's time to go back to sleep. And so they went back to bed. Anyway, there's a whole story there, but suffice to say, those warriors were Arthur and his knights, hiding, awaiting to come back again. Which echoes, this, in a sense, the Tuatha Dé Danann, the higher beings of Ireland who went underground after they fought the Firbolg, or the Milesians, I think it was the Milesians. And the Milesians took over the land, which became the Irish, and the Firbolg went underground. They became the gods of the underworld. No, they didn't. They became some fairy people. I don't know if they're connected or not. So all this stuff spinning in my head, and I'm thinking, well, I can connect some aspects of my stone to Arthur and his knights. The Tuatha De Danann, in my mind, are the people of the other realm, so I'm like, well, that could be, we could find a way to connect to the keepers and connect the keepers to the stone. You probably have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. This is why I don't talk about too much on here, because there's too much stuff that we're not there in the story yet for you guys. Now, the Forgotten series is a work in progress, and it will slowly unveil these things. Right now we're before even mankind was created. You know, we're only 3 or 4 episodes in, so we still got a long way to go before we start getting to, no! Runs into it. Before we get to that point. You know what I mean? So, suffice to say, man, I'm working on some stuff, and it's all going to connect. I do want to tell you, though, if you're patient enough, I think you're going to be surprised how rich this story gets, man. And we're sitting here talking about the creation of the world. Well, a few thousand years of history is going to go by where I've plotted it all out. And even I'm fucking shocked of how much lore is in this fucking story, this book. I'd say it's on par with the Silmarillion, man. It really is. It's that fucking good. Everything that we work on matters. So, but that's the kind of stuff that I've been quietly contemplating. Just how can I connect all these stories, and because there's a part when you're making something where everything's so ethereal. It's like, oh, you know, like he was born, but we don't really know when he was born, and this battle happened, but I don't know when it happened, or he founded this, but we don't know the exact story of how he founded it. There's so much ethereal stuff there, and I'm finally starting to hone it in. Starting to really focus on these things to make them work now. And it's not exactly easy because there's so much to remember. There's so much to keep tabs on, keep track of, so we don't lose track of any sort of thing that I want to do, you know. And that's what it can be hard, I'll say that. Because you don't want to say something and then it contradicts this part of the story. Now all of a sudden you got to rewrite sections, which has happened in the past. Now, with all that being said, that ramble being completed, I would say that the process of the story and all its major elements really hinge on a few different things. They really need to be spoken and discovered at the right time, at the right place. And since we have to go about the story making slowly, it's difficult to utilize those skills in that sense. For instance, sometimes you'll be in the middle of your job and then boom, an idea hits and you gotta go and write it down real quick. Now I was at work and I don't know how it happened. I just kinda, how did it happen? When I make my videos, I listen back to them, right? And I was listening back to one of them and some stuff hit me. So I was at work and I thought, fuck, okay, I'm gonna go in the office real quick and I'm gonna type this up. No one's around it, you know, I'm just gonna hit this shit. And my ideas were Nuada. So that's the god, the Celtic god. It's one of the Tuatha De Danann, I believe. Being the conveyor back to the creator was the being in my dream that watched me kill his conveyor. So that's that dream I had about the deer. I believe Nuada may be connected to Dove, but that will need some exploring for sure. This being is the one below the creator, as of right now. That could only be Dove. That would mean when Eris has the next vision visiting the deity in the stone statue, which is the dream I told you about, that is Dove trapped. Trapped in the mind of the Chosen One. A place that Theis could never get him. For it was the Forgotten King who invited him in to hide. And it was Dove that aided the Forgotten King in his trapping in the realm of creation. This is the other voice speaking to him. So I thought in my mind, I'm like, I was trying to take my dreams, and I've always used my dreams in the book. Always have. I have to, because why wouldn't I not? And I was thinking deeply about, like, how can I make this work? and I was doing my research. You watch that video, the prophetic dream video. Just watch that and then come back to this. And I was trying to ponder how I can make that work. What is that trying to say to me? And taking that, how do I place that into the book? Which the book is the exploration of the prophetic path. That's all it really is. I use a lot of allegory, and I use like storytelling, and it's in a made up world, but everything is a metaphor, everything is an allegory, everything is a symbol. It is as deeply rich as one would imagine any mythology is. I'm doing that on purpose because it's a prophetic happenings. So going back to the story, and I said, well, if Eris faces this shape-shifting deer, who was that deer? Not only in my world, but we go into his world. What would that be in his world? So what's the similarity here? In my world, I think that the being that sent the shapeshifter was Nuada, the Celtic god. That's who I feel like it is. Well, let's transport to the book. Nuada doesn't exist there. Who exists for him? So I said, well, that would be Dove, because I know Nuada isn't, okay? But there was some things that he had that gave me this concept, okay? Forgive me if this is a bit of a fucking stretch. Dove in the stories, so the ones that you're hearing about Dove when it comes to the Forgotten series, he's Prometheus. He's going to be the one that aids mankind and gives him the fire, right? Well, in Celtic cosmology, in a little bit of their mythology, Nuada has the sword of light. And I don't remember if he came from Gorias, which is the realm of fire and heat. So I was like, well, okay, let's just go with the idea that he's a Prometheus type archetype. Nuada is. So Prometheus, which is Nuada, which in my book would have to be Dove, sent this being to confront Eris. Okay. Well, then who's the shapeshifter? Who's the conveyor of Dove? So, Dove created Cineu in the books, and I talked about that in the Forgotten series. And that is his conveyor of nature. So, my thing I have to connect somehow is Cineu, which is very closely related to Cernunnos, or Cernunnos. He is the shape-shifting deer. Well, that is the one that sees over the nature. So why would a being that bestows light upon mankind send a nature deity to confront Eris in a dream? That there's some symbology there. You know what I'm saying? See how we're getting somewhere with that? I'm not there at this point, but I'm starting to connect it all. I thought maybe we have this, I don't know how to exactly say it in Welsh, so forgive me. Prynap Need. Prynap Need, I don't know how to say it, but it's basically Prynap Need. And that is the Christian people will say that's the devil. He is the king of the other world. And I found there might be a connection here. So Dove created Cineu. So I'm thinking Cineu and Prynap Need might be similar beings. But my thinking is, I think we're stumbling upon stuff. And I'm starting to figure out the sword. Eris discovers the sword. I'm thinking it's the sword of light that Nuada has. Well, how does that connect all to the story? Well, in my book, the sword is the one that banished the Forgotten King. So it's got some sort of spiritual sacred elements to it. Now Eris has it. He found it. How are we going to connect that to the stories? What's the major reason for all this? Okay? All 10 of you that stayed here and listen to me ramble about something you don't know what I'm talking about. What we do, as in me, in the story, is a representation of what's going on in my life, in my spiritual journey. Because to solve down here means I could solve up here. If I figure out how the gods and all their games work and what they're up to, I will know what they're doing above me, which tells me what's going on above them. To zoom into this world, this book, and to understand it fully is to go below. And then, you know, the famous saying, as above, so below, from the understanding of this down here, we can understand the transcendence above us and know our place in the whole sphere of it. when I communicate, as in I'm writing Eris' story, my hero, he is an aspect of myself, a conveyor of myself, and I'm guiding him as a creator would through this journey. But I'm using these other beings that are playing all these games and everything's all connected to be his kind of platform from which he needs to work through. So he needs to kind of work through these gods and unravel their stories and take part in these journeys, because in his doing that, it will allow me to know how to do it for my gods. And from that point, then they might know for theirs. And then we can do this because it all takes place in a fractal understanding, to which is why the circles were created. How are the circles, how are they created? How does this work? Let's just get into it real quick, and I'll show you this video. Alright guys, there's been a lot of confusion. I've been getting emails like a motherfucker about how confusing the circle is. So, you didn't get emails, no one even talks to you. Shut up. Now, outside of the known universe, I gotta talk about this so fucking much, but outside of the known universe, our universe, through a different plane of understanding, once you reach the end, you have to shift to a new understanding. We could say you go into another world, another plane, the astral plane, something that transcends, here's a modern word, dimension. You go into another dimension, you have this concept. This is the tool, all of this, in which the Titans created. Now, this is the fractal nature of all of the fucking realms here. That's what that is. And so you have from smallest to largest. And this is transcendence. This is, if you were to think of the Druidic understanding, it's pause, because you can't fucking remember words when you need to. What is it? Anun? So in Druidic understanding, this would be kind of like a bread, okay? And I'm going to read what it says. The lowest circle is the beginning of the soul's pilgrimage, the realm of plants, animals, life, the world of nature. And it comes forth from the cauldron of Anun. Now the cauldron of Anun is creation itself. That's what's in the middle here. That's the cauldron of Anun. Now, this is the soul's pilgrimage here. So, again, in the distance of that is some other word that you forgot. Kaigant. In that is Kaigant, which exists outside of a bread, and that's that eternal thing you're chasing. Kaigant is defined as the third and final circle of manifestation, extending forever above Gwynvilth. Forever above Gwynvilth. You can think of Kaigant as infinity itself. And it's kind of the soul's rise forever in knowledge, understanding, all this and that. It's kind of like God. It's like Awen, it's where it's at. Well, mine is right here, my Kaigant. You can transcend through a bread, and then the Kaigant is something that spins you back. And you go back. It's part of this process, and you keep going and going and going until I figure out how to not be a piece of shit. And then woof, and it jumps you up to the next circle. And imagine this, but it goes here. And in this, you have another circle, and that's another realm. How many are there of these? I don't know yet. There's probably a fuck ton, or there might be none at all. But you keep jumping, and that's... It's not like, yeah, this is a bread, and there's your next round, my friend. No, there's more than just three, like it says in the modern Druidry. Okay, this is not something that any person in, like, apparently in Wales or Ireland, they would look at this and be like, "You fucking piece of shit." I'm an American. This is all I have. Okay, we don't have sacred land like you guys do. I thought you did. It's called being Native Americans and stuff. That's not ours. So that's kind of how it works, and each one of them has this portal, which we could call the cauldron. The very same cauldron Eris was dunked into by the giant in that dream he had. Why the fuck not? But in my mind, I've always thought of it as the realm of creation, the God's toolbox, the place that makes. And so the Titans made each individual realms as they keep going higher and higher and higher. And each one is fractal in its understanding. So this works like that. And you keep going and going and going. And each one is another realm of understanding. All right? I need to chill out because I'm getting a little animated, but god damn it sometimes. Okay. It's a little complex, I know, I'm sorry. This whole video is probably really complex, but it must be done because this is what the stream of consciousness is telling me to do. This is what we're doing. We're trying to unravel what's really going on here because there is so much, not only at stake, but there's so much to unravel in this time that I don't think I'll discover the truth in this, but I know that I have to do all this. I have to. I have these dreams. They always reiterate to me to follow this path. I had a dream recently again where the woman, the guardian woman in my life, which is simultaneously was past and present in the dream. So it was my mother and it turned into my wife. So it's like these women that kind of guide me and keep me on the path. The whole time, this dream I had recently, they kept telling me, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. As in, I can only remember bits of it, but we were on this train and it was moving through this landscape and we were up in the mountains. And as I looked around outside, there was giant valleys that just went down and just out there in the distance, and it was just miles I could see because we were so high. Something happened to the train, it crashed. But at that time my mother told me, we have to keep going. I know we gotta go. We can't stay here. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm transported and we're in a boat and we're going down this foggy river with trees all around. It was very sinister looking. And through the fog on these boats, it was me and my wife, and as we're moving through, she said, we have to go to the city. We have to go. We got to keep moving forward. And I said, okay, I'm fucking going. I'm trying. And we're getting there, and all of a sudden, the next dream, forgive me, all the middle parts I've forgotten. These are only the main parts I can remember. All of a sudden, we're in a major city. And it was an Eastern European city, and it was a little bit dilapidated. It looked like, you know, some bad shit might have happened, and maybe we're thinking like Fallout kind of stuff, where the world might have fallen apart. And we're in the city with, we have to go here, we have to go here, says my wife / mother. We gotta go here. I said, okay, we're going. We get into this giant building, this dark building, and I have to get on a ride in the building. And it was kind of like a roller coaster. Think of it like a roller coaster. But my wife said, you have to go through this. You have to get on the ride. You have to get on the ride. So I said, okay, I'm going to get on the ride. I'm going. And then, you know, I don't remember anything else. I woke up. But that dream was telling me, you got to keep doing this. You got to keep moving. You're coming up with these ideas. You faced Cernunnos. You spoke to Nuada. You spoke to the sacred feminine inside of yourself. You were given the sword of light in that other dream. You have the tools now. Now we got to keep going forward. So if that's happening in my life, I'm going to do that to Eris. Of course, that's going to be a part of his story. But my point I'm trying to say is I can see we're on the right path. And I'm being told this is what we're supposed to be doing. The only difficult part is, as I was saying, when I have these realizations, when I discover some of the cosmology of the Celtic peoples, the Indo-European people, their stories, the stories of Thor and Odin and the Greek stories and the Finnish, and you know what I'm saying, like all the kind of Indo-European that branch from, all echo a same Gnostic truth. And I'm supposed to be on this path unraveling it. I know that I am because that's all I've been doing. So I'm trying to figure out, what are they trying to tell me? What am I being told to do here? And it's not easy. It really isn't. It's incredibly difficult. And that's why I was saying that in the earlier part, I was just like, that's why it's like I go to work, I feel like I'm wasting fucking time there. Because I'm at work like, putting stuff on a shelf and moving stuff in the back room and doing my job. I feel like I'm fucking around there for goddamn 8 hours, 5 days a week. I'm like, I am wasting so much time here. So that's where it gets frustrating. Then you come home and you know you got all this to do, and you're just like, I'm just tired. I want to sleep. Last week I was only getting 4 hours of sleep every night. I was just having a really rough time falling asleep, Can you stop, please? She's being cute and she wants to be cuddled. I can hear her purring. Yes, Mama. It's just all this pressure, you know, and I'm trying my best to do the best that I can do. And I'm also trying to give you guys, the people that choose to watch this, the best explanation I can for what's happening, but I'm just so scatterbrained about it. I'm so like I want you to know, but I'm like, but then you'd have to know what the keepers are, and I gotta tell you the story about the keepers. And I'm like, well, then I'd have to tell you the story about Dovemore, and I can't tell you this because then I'd have to tell you about Tan, you know. And I feel like I'm losing you a bit because I'm talking about this shit, and you're like, who's Dove? What are you talking? Nuada? What does that even mean? Cernunnos and Seneu? I don't understand. That's what I mean. Like it's hard because I have all the connections here, and there's only a couple guys that can grasp what I'm talking about because they're helping me make the story. But that's it. Generally, everyone else is just confused. So I'm trying to do my best to explain everything I can. But once we get there, you'll start to see it. It'll all make sense. You just got to be patient. Like I've had to be fucking patient. We began this journey back in 2012. It is now 2024. What is that? 12 to 2022 is 10. Yeah, this has been a 12-year journey. And I'm just starting to piece it together. I don't expect anyone to piece it together that just joined us on this fucking adventure. But anyway, we probably should get going. Give you a little bit to unpack this video because there's quite a lot to unfucking pack. I don't even know what I said, I'll be honest, but let's just keep moving on. Let's keep moving forward. And I'm trying to unravel the story here, and I will give updates. I'm going to try to begin today to work on the Forgotten series, and you'll get another video as soon as I possibly can get it, and it'll keep going. And the next video will be the truth of the Titans, the unraveling of the AOC, and the Aeons. It's going to be cool.